Please welcome Juergen Lindner.
Good afternoon, everyone. Extremely grateful to be here and to be joined by all of you. So allow me to be among the first to really thank you for spending your time with us. I want to thank our customers, our prospects, our partners, the media and the analyst community for really sharing what Safra referred to earlier, your most valuable asset with us, your time. Today, we're going to talk about change. We're going to talk about the speed of change. And likely there couldn't be a more fitting, timely example than the British Airways flight. So here's to you, UK, who broke the record for subsonic speed on making the transition from New York to London at 800 miles per hour or 1,273 kilometers per hour. So talk about change and speed of change. So while we're not going to be talking about subsonic change to your business or sonic change, we're definitely going to talk about what it means to stay relevant in today's economy, in today's technology landscape. In doing so, you see a couple of names on this intro slide, so I'm not going to go at that alone. I actually want to make sure that our customers have a voice in that. We're going to make that very customer-centric. We want to have our customers share their stories. And in between, I'm going to delight you with some content as well. Now, the session is going to be structured in three distinct parts. We're going to have first a conversation around when we talk to customers, what is the conversation like? Because unanimously, the same things, the same topics do come up all the time. So we want to show what that means. The second part is going to be how can we as Oracle partner with you to really stem this change? And this goes beyond a pure technological partnership that really goes into a business partnership where we want to be as close to you and your business problems to really help you there. And cloud for us is a very fundamental vehicle. It changes how we can interact, how we can quickly bring value to you. And lastly, we're going to talk about the time is now. We genuinely feel that if you are still sitting on the sidelines of potentially moving decisively into a cloud footprint, we try to really pull out all of the stops, all of the risks, all of the uncertainties to go to the cloud, and we're going to talk about that as well. Accelerating business change. So here it's really about, in our customer conversations, there's common themes that we're seeing. We're seeing Oracle, for example. Let's take us as an example. We have morphed from an on-premise software company to a subscription company. Fundamental change in how we think about revenue streams, customer intimacy, how we deliver value. So a lot of companies are right now on this journey to develop from product companies to service companies. We do see also changes in customer expectations. So the experience economy is a really big thing. We see very different expectations how our customers shape their journeys, how they interact with us. The customer's in full command, and you need to be very much on your feet to live up to their expectations. And then, of course, what do we need to do in teaming up with our customers to provide a modern, an agile, a responsive business platform that really helps you to outpace that change? So this is where this partnership comes in. Roles and responsibilities are big for us as well, because, I mean, when I graduated, I wish I would have known a data scientist is a role to come. I would have pimped my LinkedIn profile for sure, would have been a really good kick into a career. Or chief digital officer. These roles didn't exist when I was graduating. And now in industry for 25 years, it's just mesmerizing to see how the infusion of new talent, new challenges, the coexistence of humans and machine drives very different challenges actually for everyone in the corporation and how we need to team up to stem that change. If you culminate that with the technology change that we're seeing, it's downright mesmerizing. I honestly consider myself very blessed to be living in this time. I don't think a generation has seen as much change as quickly as we have, as we can observe. And certainly, there's a couple of buzzwords out there. Artificial intelligence. I don't think you can go to any vendor conference where AI is not a topic. I want to show you why we are so bullish on our approach, how we can help you to really harness those emerging technologies. And to make that more relevant, there was a study commissioned by MIT Sloan not too long ago, where 84% of the corporations hinge their trajectory on the corporate Darwinism curve to the successful, the decisive adoption of AI. So my pet saying is actually, corporate Darwinism in the age of digital has been unkind to some already. You can see that in the S&P 500 composition. I do think that corporate Darwinism in the age of AI is going to be ruthless. So we definitely want to make sure that you have all of the head start going into that race of technology, that we can be this technology and business partner with you. We also live, however, in a world where the first 3 words of a newborn can be classified as mom, dad, and Alexa. It is downright mesmerizing as to how our experiences in our consumer life share digital conversations, the experiences that we take into the workplace with that. So it's fundamental that when we design technology, that we take this into account. We need to live up to those expectations. We want to carry over those experiences into the corporate workforce as well. With that, there is a new threat out there. Security has never been a hotter topic than today. And what we do see is the degree of sophistication of those attacks is ever increasing. I'm not sure if you had a chance to listen to the morning session. We're very invested in cybersecurity. We want to make sure that you always stay ahead of that threat and state actors, whatever comes here. But at the center of everything is data. And it's not just amassing data. That's one part. It's first-party data, third-party data. It's not just the amassment. It's how do you extract value, the right value of data at the right point in time, in the right context, when you need it. And there's likely no better job function right now that's in the spotlight also for data than human capital management and all of the other line of business applications we're going to talk about today. So I want to stick close to my promise. I said this is not about Juergen talking a lot. This is really about our customers talking about their experiences they have with us going on that journey. So allow me to call up on stage Gretchen Allakorn from our development team and Simon and Gareth from Co-op. So let's play a quick video and invite them up on stage.
Co-op is one of the largest co-ops in the world. We had to reimagine our recruitment service. We needed to innovate fast, so with Oracle HCM and Oracle integration, we actually implemented the whole service within 2 quarters. Now that we've implemented the service, it takes our managers 30 seconds and 5 clicks to raise that requisition, which is fantastic.
Okay, now we're official. Well, thank you guys for joining me today. I have to say, I love it when HR gets to go first, because we know that we are the center of the universe as far as anything related to employees go. This is a very important part of the product suite. So I thought it'd be great, before we get into talking product, because I know that's what everyone's expecting, tell us about your business. Tell us about who you are and what's driving your organizations today.
Okay, so a lot of people in this room will know who the Co-op are. The Co-op, a very large organisation in the UK. We have around 70,000 colleagues, 2,500 food stores, 1,000 funeral branches, the largest in the UK. And we're owned by 5 million members. A lot of people in the room probably have a membership card. And that makes us a little bit unique, we think, because that enables us to focus on things that are important to us, like our social goals programs and our community programs. For example, we run and operate 24 academy schools in the UK. And I think where our sort of current focus is on related to technology is a lot of it's around optimizing our operations, making things more efficient for our colleagues, and also what we call being convenient. So being convenient is different depending on which business you're in, But from a colleague perspective, it's all around us giving technology to make colleagues be better at their jobs, to spend more time with our customers and our communities.
Okay, great. All right, so what led you in that kind of a business environment? What led you to think about modernizing HR? You would think, maybe I'm going to start with CX, or maybe I'm going to start with ERP. Were there business challenges or technology needs that really pushed you in that direction?
Yeah, so we were really constrained by technology that really prevented us offering a good colleague proposition. So we were constrained by change, so our systems were not integrated. We had a lot of legacy applications in there. And it fundamentally didn't allow the business to do what they wanted to do. There was lots of manual, time-consuming, which became error-prone processes. So we really needed to completely turn that on its head, make ourselves far more agile as a business, be able to offer self-service options to our colleagues, which made us more efficient. And really, not just that, create a platform for change. So I think from a business case perspective, the numbers stacked up. I think there was a £4.5 million saving associated with the transformation. But we had much more faith in the platform than that, in terms of having a platform there that we could continually grow and innovate on, which is what we've continued to do.
Great. So you've been live for a while. I lucked out and happened to be visiting the day you went live, which was just fabulous to hear your story around how you'd prepared the services center and then you really didn't need them because things were going fairly smoothly. Like, we'll call that a success for a go live. But can you talk about what it's been like living in the cloud now that you're a couple years on? What's it like in your organization today?
Yeah, sure, Gretchen. So, we started our journey at the Co-op to the cloud back in 2015, so we've kind of got 5 years in the cloud now. And life in the cloud from a Co-op perspective is all about change, innovation, and evolvement of the product. That's some of the key items for us. But before we talk about change, you've kind of got to go back to 2015 and look at the investment Co-op made in the people. So the team that we formed as part of the program are very much the team that are at the heart of everything we do today. So we've got great pedigree in the cloud and a team that underpins that. What has changed for the Co-op, though, is the model. So we now operate a DevOps methodology. We use agile practices. And we tend to do iteration in design. From a business perspective, what we tend to see now is there is less requirement for a large program structure. We're leaner in our delivery model. And one of the great examples for the Co-op was the implementation of the HCM learning platform. So we kind of replaced 10 LMSs across the suite of Co-op businesses. We did that using one product engineer. From 0 to 12 weeks, saw us go live for 6,000 colleagues with mandatory learning. And then subsequent sprints released new functionality to maximize the benefit and onboard new colleagues. So we started in around February, and by September, we were live for 70,000 colleagues. Very much a Co-op production in partnership with OC, where we used the resource in OC to help augment the Co-op team and complement in areas where we knew we would need additional skill sets.
And who thought you were crazy with this approach? One developer, 6 months for 70,000 employees.
I thought we were crazy.
You thought we were crazy.
I thought we were crazy with this approach. Yeah, because normally the tendency would be to engage a partner. We had a great deal of confidence in the team. Mm-hmm. All those years' service going through the program, we believed we could do it. But equally, as we formed this into a sprint plan, you guys kind of validated that for us and said, absolutely, this is what you can do. We've got every faith. And, through that support, we went on to deliver on time, on budget, and it was a great success. Great.
So, in full transparency, we can't have someone come up here and just tell us how wonderful everything's been, because there are times when things are not great, and, we try really hard to partner well with you, but I'd love to hear your perspective. What's worked well? Where could we improve? This is your one chance to get your wish list item on the roadmap. So what would you like to see?
If I think back to 2015 and the implementation of payroll, we were the first large payroll to go live in the UK, first to go live with statutory absence. It was a sticky time, but the partnerships we created with Oracle during that time has really held us in good stead going forward. We had to have some difficult conversations through that, but together using partnership behaviors. I mean, we're a cooperative, we cooperate, so that works really well from in our DNA. And actually, those relationships have sort of continued on to how we operate now, Gareth?
Yeah, so I think for me, the kind of that Oracle relationship and where we've had the ongoing kind of help is in 4 key pillars for me. So first of all was around support and providing confidence in the product and removing any product defects. The second has been that partnership with the Centre of Excellence. So we've had some real great work on early adopter to reduce the volume of testing, and also pilot some new key features as a major partner. Interestingly, we stay incredibly close to the sales side for our strategy and how the product is evolving and how the product is being pitched to new customers, so we keep a line of sight, cutting edge. And then finally, and later, partnering very much with Oracle Consulting to help us augment the resource in the co-op team. I think my ask going forward is, as we go on this journey, is to help us now as a co-op. We're very interested in developing this kind of 360-degree view of our colleagues. So looking forward to Recruit Cloud. How do we do that and bring these modules together cohesively is the next step for the co-op, really.
Right. Well, we've got a session on that in 45 minutes, so you can come hear what we're doing. All right, so I think maybe last question for you all. Everyone talks about the pace of change. You know, Juergen started us off by talking about how do you outpace change. And one of the good news is about moving to the cloud is the quarterly update cycle and staying consistent. And one of the bad news is the quarterly update cycle and how do you stay consistent. So can you talk about how that pace of change has changed in your organization, what behaviors have changed, or how you've seen any impacts in your organization?
I think the pace of change was an opportunity for us. The ability to change things frequently, not just the quarterly updates, but be able to continually innovate on the product is a big advantage. I think that has created expectations now from a technology team to the business that we can deliver and absorb everything, which is a bit of a challenge. However, what it has enabled us to do is really optimize the product continually. I think you've got an example, Gareth, of where we've done that.
Yes, I think that optimization is key and what you can actually do with core products. So we went live, obviously, a few years ago. We launched self-service for all colleagues, and very recently using Design Studio and Page Composer, we've worked as a team to reimagine that journey for our colleagues. And we've taken our transfer process, which on average took about 50 minutes to do. And last year we did around 18,000 of these transfers. Using that new tooling, we've been able to reduce that now to 11 minutes, which is putting thousands of hours back into our stores rather than doing the transfer process. So we've had some real success on the optimization side as well.
That's fantastic. And I think the more you live within the cloud, you're going to see other opportunities like that because you've gone beyond implementation. Now you're living, and so it's a different type of change.
And it's got us excited about the future. The next step for us over the next 2 years, we've got plans to go to the help desk product in HM Cloud and also Oracle Recruit Cloud. So there are a number of iterations now of where we're going with new modules.
Yeah.
Fabulous. All right, well, thank you for joining us today. Everyone, please help me thank Gareth and Simon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And now we'll hand it back over to Juergen to continue the presentation.
Thank you. I
Another one.
have 2 now. So thank you so much, Gretchen, for leading this interview and for Co-op sharing their story. We definitely want to continue on this trajectory of having customers tell their story. So there's going to be more stories to come. But for the second part of this presentation, I'd like to structure it along 5 distinct themes of the conversation. One of the themes being that we feel very strongly about having a complete suite of cloud-based SaaS application ready to go, no lead time required. Gives us a distinct advantage to really help our customers with any line of business challenge they have, to cater to any starting point they might have as well. We're then going to talk about the best technology. We want to make sure that what you heard this morning translates into how do you benefit on the application side from sitting on a really modern stack of technology that helps you propel you forward in the business context. Fastest innovation, we feel very strongly about that too. Our 90-day increments of really shipping new functionality to you has allowed us to be a much, much more nimble partner. Let's give an example. We're going to have Rodney on stage in a minute. out of the ERP context, where over the course of the last 12 months, we shipped over 1,500 new features into our customer base that they can take advantage of. Which leads us to a modern user experience. I'm going to talk to that one as well. What type of investments are we doing that you always have the most contemporary experiences? Because it goes back to what I said earlier, your workforce demographic expect a very different catering to, and 90-day increments allow us to continuously update the user interface as well. And then, of course, customer first. To a certain extent, cloud is humbling for us as well. We get instant feedback. We can deliver much, much further and faster. So the intimacy, the dialogue we need to have with you, and the feedback you can give us is really unprecedented for us. So we want to talk to that as well. Most complete. This having the possibility to cater to any starting point in your line of business transformation is really something that's very important. So it's with quite some foresight that over a decade ago, we started to rewrite all of the applications for a SaaS readiness, which today folds out very favorably for us, actually, to really be able to cater to any starting point you might have, be that an on-premise investment that you might have with us from the e-business suite, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, or being even competitive type of footprints from which you're moving off into an Oracle Cloud type of environment, being it SAP, being it Workday, being it Infor. So we're really seeing a lot of attraction here. The reason why we did it is that business processes don't stop at an application boundary. They typically tend to have a lot of touch points into multiple line of business functions. And having this unique construct sitting on the same common data model gives us the possibility to let data flow seamlessly to support any business process out there. So there is likely no better starting point to really go into a journey and feeling about the completeness of a suite than a cloud ERP type of investment. So I'm very glad to invite on stage Ron Deing and Nick from the home office to really talk about their experiences on that journey. So let's play a quick video.
All right, Nick, welcome.
Thank you.
So very pleased to have you here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your role, and a little bit about the home office?
Yeah, the Home Office has had the primary responsibility for keeping our citizens and our borders safe since 1782. I have not been employed there for most of that time, although it might look like it. We are an organisation of around about 35,000 people. That's been growing a lot as we prepare for European Union exit. I don't know if I'm the first person to mention it today. Apologies if that's the case. And we've got a variety of different parts in our workforce. We've got very operational parts of the organisation who have the power of arrest, who operate in uniform and are quasi-command and control. We have Whitehall mandarins who do policy jobs and do a lot of deep thinking for a living. So a very broad, very diverse workforce.
Great. So now, Home Office, since 1782, has been at the front lines of keeping this country safe. Clearly, over the last decades or so, I assume the need for quick information, talking about the pace of change earlier, need for information, data analysis, as well as the efficiency is really actually way important topics. Tell us a little bit about how this transformation affected the organization and how it's affecting the overall digitization of the government services here in the UK.
I guess those of us who work in corporate services only really get an opportunity to talk about the wider digital agenda and how we might in future look to blend corporate data with frontline operational data to get into some really exciting work on how government should invest and what its bang for buck is. We only get the chance to do that if we get the basics right. And fundamentally for us, our primary goal was to give their people their time back. Because like a lot of you, I've worked in shared services for some time, and we told everyone a few years ago that self-service was going to save them time. And I'm not sure that we actually did, because we didn't have systems that actually made it easy for them to serve themselves. So for me, this has been really been about getting the basics right. We had a very customized system that was on-premise, that was designed between 2006 and 2008. And if you look really closely at it, it looks exactly like something that was designed in 2006. We found it challenging to upgrade. These programs were taking us 5 to 8 years, depending on what government department you talk about, and they cost us a lot of money. So we had something which was out of date, and we were frightened about the process of how to keep pace. So really for us, what we wanted to do was move away from a customized system, save some money on hosting, reinvest that in new modules we hadn't previously managed systemically before, like talent, workforce planning, to get the basics right, and then to have a platform where we knew we were going to stay up to date and we could transform and change once we got safely onto day one.
Okay, so increasing efficiency while saving costs and opening up opportunities for you to invest in some of the other functions that otherwise you wouldn't have the possibility to do that. Now, I understand that home office has been live for almost a year now.
Yeah.
Now, tell us a little bit about the functional benefits and how you're actually going after some of the following phases of the project.
Yeah, so I think very much day one has been about being able to land in a place where we don't have to do a lot of transformation of data that we want to take from our system. So a great example of that in terms of the day one benefits within corporate services, where we can show we're getting the basics right, has been in terms of reporting for our directors general, for the really senior people who run UK visas and immigration, who run Border Force. In the past, the conversation when we had to manipulate, transform data from a heavily customized on-premise system was as much about whether the data was right as what the story was that the data was telling us. And one of the things we've been able to do really quickly after we went live was automate the production of the packs which all of the boards of management across the Home Office use to manage their finances. It's a touch of a button, it's automated. There is no manipulation, there is no data transformation going on. The conversation is about what the data is telling you, not about whether or not the data is right. I think looking ahead, the opportunity that we see there is to save more time out in the organisation. So not addressing the tiny proportion of our budget which is spent on corporate services, but actually thinking about the huge amounts of time that our colleagues have to spend, for example, away from the front line. Very much as colleagues were saying from the co-op earlier on, people in Border Force spend about half an hour a month away from the front line, away from keeping the country safe, because they've got to go to a desktop computer in a back room. I think they probably have a cup of tea and a Kit Kat while they're doing it, but and so they quite enjoy that. But actually that's time away from doing their core job. And some of the opportunities where we've done some proofs of concept using the new tool set, for example, things like buying uniforms, punching out to electronic catalogues from the ERP system, getting requisitions and POs generated automatically, getting goods receipt notes done via email, electronic invoicing. You know, as my boss always says, we give people the power of arrest, but we make it hard for them to buy a new uniform. So actually using the platform to be able to give them that electronic catalogue purchasing experience. And day two is much more about getting out in the business and figuring out how we prioritise modernising people's user experience using the tool set.
Well, that's pretty amazing. So you first automate a lot of these processes, giving the users back the time to focus on more important duties like keeping the country safe, while at the same time you're actually positioning home office to be ready, not just keeping the lights on, doing all the processes in an automated fashion, but really looking at ongoing innovation and adopting that as you go. So it's never kind of like an end to this. It's a continuous journey of transformation.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, anyone who's worked with me will know that any project I'm on is never ending. But I think that we kind of started this with a mindset of we've got to do a piece of work now to get off an old system onto a new one, and then there'll be some stuff that's better about it. And actually, really, what we've learned is that there's a lot you've got to think about in terms of skills. There's always a culture change, there's always a business change element, but actually, for you as the people who run the system, and again, echoing what the guys from the co-op said earlier on, we never had a system before that you could make any change to in any less than 6 months anyway. So the idea that we had to be agile, we'd never really had to do it. So there's a whole bunch of new capabilities that we've realized we're going to need to build with our colleagues in HR and in finance and in procurement to be able not just to react to what comes down the line at us once every 3 months, but actually to be proactive and to lean into that and say where we want to go, involve our user community in telling us what they want us to improve for them. Because we never really got good at doing that in the past, because if they told us what they wanted, we probably couldn't have delivered it anyway.
Yeah. So like our customers are telling us that change management is one of the most complicated aspects for any digital transformation, especially a project like this.
Yeah.
So any words of wisdom for the kind of the audience here about how you actually manage that successfully at home office?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would call them words of wisdom. I think hard-won experience, Rondi. I think fundamentally, no one's going to thank you for implementing a new ERP system. You know, I don't get a lot of Christmas cards from people saying, Nick, thank God you've transformed requisitioning. Because everyone likes to complain. I think it's fundamentally about being able to exploit this tool set in a way that actually, finally, we've learned you can start to get close to the type of experience people have when they use technology at home. And I know that's a cliche, but if you think when we did the proof of concept with Border Force on using an electronic catalogue with pre-approvals already in it, so they didn't have to wait for 3 or 4 days to get something approved by a line manager who may be on a different shift pattern. When we gave them that experience, we didn't make a big song and a dance about it. We didn't trumpet it as being transformative. We just did a proof of concept, we gave them it, and we asked them what they thought. And 75% of them said it was much easier to get what they needed than had happened in the past. And fundamentally, it's about trying it. I think it's about making it real, doing those proofs of concept, doing those pilots. And for us, the fact that 75% of our staff said they liked something, if you met them, you'd know what a triumph that was.
So involve them, making sure that kind of they feel good about this. Nick, thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for your partnership. Really appreciate that.
It's all right, Randy. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to bring Juergen back.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Randy. I'll take this one. So thank you so much, Nick and Randy, for this inspiring conversation here. We are going to continue on the same vein where I left off about connected business processes. And some of them you might be exposed to on a very regular basis as a consumer. I'll take the example of being a cable provider, and you have a problem, you're logging a problem with that. And then oftentimes you have this experience where you get this service window. We come anywhere from 10 to 2 p.m., which by itself is annoying because you might have to take a day off, actually, to be home. And then the service request was not properly executed or relayed, so maybe it's a skill set issue by the time the person arrives. Or the part that you're looking for, the box, for example, is not in the trunk. So one of those offerings that we designed is service logistics. And it's a picture-perfect example of a connected business process because you have to tie together 3 main components. Actually, you need to tie together the customer service part. So how do you interact with the customer? How do you listen? How do you really delight the customer in the first conversation and touch point? But then also making sure that you tie together the field service component, meaning the skill set Oftentimes that requires a rather complex mapping of an HR capability matrix to the person you potentially send out to fix the problem. And then add to the complexity the supply chain aspect of it. It might be that this part that you need is stocked, then you're in luck. It might be that you have to manufacture it, or then make sure that it's properly on the trunk, in the trunk, obviously, by the time the person arrives. So it's really tying together. That is why the benefit of an entire suite is so integral to us. Business processes need to flow seamlessly through all of the applications. Oops. I have 2 clickers now. Let me quickly see. Better be sure. Ha! So I have 2 clickers. I need to watch out. At the center of all of that is data, once again. And as Oracle, certainly we know a piece or two about data. We've been synonymous with owning, securing, and managing the world's data for a while now. But there's 3 distinct parts of data that are critical when you are designing your journey. There is transactional data, data that you're curating, capturing within the application flow, that your staff is inputting into the system, that is validated by the system, and hopefully you have as complete a picture of all lines of businesses in your transactional systems. That, however, is only one part of the equation that will make you thrive. There is the combination of third-party data that we feel very strongly about. We did an acquisition in 2018, a company called DataFox, that gives us access to about 5 million digital assets that we're scouring on a 30-minute type of basis to be able to infuse this insight directly into the application's context. What that means is, do you have all the firmographic data at your discretion, meaning there has been a leadership change in the company you're targeting? Has there been a compliance issue in your supply chain? Did an earnings report tank, and you should better know about that because the IT spend that this company might have with you is very different. So this firmographic data at your discretion, natively infused into the business process, is a fundamental advantage that you can use to make your campaigns more targeted, make your sales force more productive, or make sure that you have enough lever in the negotiations with your supplier to really leverage that real-time knowledge. Another piece is the Oracle Data Cloud. I'm quite sure you have been, it's pretty cold out there, so maybe you have been Googling for a Mediterranean cruise. That would be a nice thing to do right now. And you had this experience likely that the next time you log into a website, there might be a contextual advertisement. Book Royal Caribbean, book a Disney cruise, or something like that. So very likely the Oracle Data Cloud was used behind the scenes. What we can do through the Oracle Data Cloud is, in an anonymized fashion, gather a lot of data points that allows us, in our marketing efforts, for example, in your marketing efforts, to be very precise, targeted, in an anonymized fashion, however, to be very productive in your sales cycle, in your marketing campaigns as well. Let me see if that is the right one. Which brings me to a product line we're very fond of. Oracle CX Unity, Customer Experience Unity. I'm going to bring the godfather on stage in a second here, Rob Tarkov. But it's really about how can we make sure that we go beyond traditional approaches of the customer data platform. I think Rob used an analogy at OpenWorld San Francisco where he said, comparing CX Unity to a traditional customer data platform is like comparing a Ferrari to a traditional car. So that's how strongly he feels about it. But it's really making sure that this is becoming beyond a capturing of a data platform into an intelligence platform, where we're ingesting billions of data points, deduping, classifying, segmenting those type of data points, that you can be as effective in building those contextual real-time profiles about a customer to delight and steer their journey for better outcomes. So when I talk about this platform, it's likely the best point in time to bring Rob up on stage. This is really making sure that now we understand how customers are using our customer experience offerings. So allow me to bring on stage Rob Tarkov. and Christoph from SGS to tell about their journey, their experience in moving to our CX applications. Please play a video.
All right, great video. Good afternoon, everyone. No better way to pull you out of your post-lunch coma than talk about customer experience. So we are going to get into that. Before we do, I just want to mention Juergen up here said two things. One, he said the word godfather, which means I'm old. That means somewhere between your father and your grandfather, I think is somewhere in there. And the second was we talked about the experience economy. And that was really this notion that the world is changing and your customers are pushing you and they're innovating faster than companies can. So it's great to talk about SGS and what you're doing, Christoph. But before we do that, you've had some very interesting roles as a CIO across a variety of companies. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, first, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Yeah, it's true. I worked for only large corporations, international. I worked for Henkel, I worked for Johnson Controls, Heidelberg Cement, and Schindler Elevators before I joined SGS. But the tricky part is usually no one knows SGS, so we probably have to explain.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit. This is one of those companies that everybody uses. It probably affects every product here, but nobody knows who they are and what they do. So tell us a little bit about SGS, and then also you shared a story with me yesterday that I thought was great. Having 3 kids of my own, I thought, well, that's the company that tested that for me. So tell us about that.
All right, well, you all have seen the video, but it's, like you said, about customer experience. I think it's about marketing sometimes. I think still nobody probably knows what we are doing. SGS is what we call a testing, inspection, and certification company. So we have about close to 100,000 people around the globe that look after almost everything that you can imagine. So I'm 100% sure that every one of you probably have touched something today that we looked after, whether it's the water on the table here, whether it's the garment or the clothes you're wearing, whether it's the car or the train or the plane that you've used to get here, or the spa and the hotel, where likely someone like us or us have done the water testing or hygiene control or whatever. So we truly look after everything you can imagine.
Now, so toys.
Yeah, we had a bit of a dinner last night, and we spoke about what I found the most exciting. And of course, when you visit our laboratories, when you visit the jobs we are doing, you know, you go to a chemical lab and people look at it and, you know, I have no idea what they're doing. I mean, I do IT for my life, never done anything else. But when you go to a physical lab where they test, you know, brakes of a car or whatever, it's always quite exciting. Or they take a chair of an office and they just pull it and pull it and harder until it breaks. But the worst thing you can do is go to toy testing. You know, can you imagine when we take a brand new toy that is not even on the market, even if it's only a teddy bear or whatever, and we take it and we pull the eye and we test how long it takes before the eye comes off, and then we cut off the arms, and then we pull the arms, see how long it takes to pull them off, and then we test them, of course, if they're toxic or whatever. Yeah. It's a nightmare for every kid. Or can you imagine you have a brand new gaming console that's not on the market, and we lean on it as long as it takes to break the screen. So these kind of things.
You know, I could have saved you a lot of money. About 20 years ago, I would have given my 2 boys to the lab just to do that. It would have been great. Okay. So you've got a lot of data that you're gathering. So data across all these different products. And everybody's coming to you across SGS and saying, you know, customer experiences here are, you know, we're asked to produce these new reports and do new things and leverage data in new ways. And you're in IT, you're a CIO. I don't know, how many people here are in IT in the audience? Good number. So one of the big questions with CX is, how does IT partner with the business to set forth on this transformation using data to improve customer experience? So tell us a little bit about your role in that journey inside of SGS. What did you do that you thought was really helpful as you thought about how to kind of build out this roadmap?
Yeah, I think what was game-changing is what I've done, and we as a team, of course, the IT leadership team, is develop an IT strategy and truly vision. We call it the digital story, which has been a layered approach. So a bit like the OSI model for the IT people in the room, but a bit of a layered approach where we looked at IT operation, then we looked at the core system handling or the core data handling, the data aggregation level, then the different workplaces we have, and on top of that, our services and the customer-facing bit. So on each of these layers, we develop basically an IT strategy to say where do we want to get to achieve and to feed the next layer above. So at the top, we have the CX, the customer experience. We call it the customer engagement program. And basically, when you look at it, we've been able to explain one is to feed all the layers, or to optimize all the layers to feed each other, so which is including the data layer. But second, then really to make the difference to the customer, because we truly believe at the end of the day, we are not the only testing company on the world. There are certain things that only the big ones like us can do, but there are a lot of things like the water testing in the spa here, where you need a stamp to keep your shop open. Everyone that has an accreditation can do. You are not interested in what the quality is, you need the stamp, or on your car when you do your car inspection. So truly we have said, okay, we need to utilize the data we have, and SGS is only producing data, right? I mean, I don't know how many hundred thousands of reports we generate every day. So we need to utilize the data to change the customer experience, so that when you come to us, when you log into one of our products, when you use the mobile app to communicate with us, you feel immediately, oh, they're talking about me. They know what I want to do. It's not like...
One of the things you mentioned you do is a lot more in the benchmarking area, right? Yeah. Sort of showing how different companies compare to their competition or the industry in general.
That's true. We utilize some of the data we are having. So again, when you log in, you want to see that you are welcome, that I know what you want to do next. But we have also used now smart analytics and the data we are having to provide benchmark data. So it's not only about your water quality, to take the example here that we mentioned, or your water quality compared to what we tested the last 6 months, the last 6 years, whatever, but it's also how do others, how have others developed? Now, water is maybe not the best example, but when we talk about soil, when you talk about air, when we talk about other products, you certainly want to know, okay, how do I fluctuate with what the rest of the market or my competitors are doing?
So it's interesting, we talk about a lot in CX how the experience is often more important than the product itself. You're providing this experience of packaging and personalizing data almost to where it's indistinguishable from the actual product. So that experience is really driving them forward. So once you've set that vision, and you get everybody to understand this is, these are the layers we're working. Here's the engagement layer. Here's the data layer. Here's how I, as the IT leader, I'm going to drive you forward. How did you get your business partners on that journey with you? What was key for you?
Yeah, I think two key. One is, of course, to win your business and your leadership, and mainly the IT strategy and the digital story has helped to explain what do we really want to achieve. But then, of course, you also need to have the right team and the right technology stack. So we went through a lengthy process of tendering, looking at products and offerings, and one of the recommendations I do is try before you buy. So we did also a lot of MVP and testing before, at the end of the day, and I guess that's why I'm here, we decided to use the Oracle CX.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What a surprise, right?
That's great.
Now, I mean, at the end of the day, we decided to use the Oracle, not only the platform, but also the services to get there. And I mean, we've been quite successful so far, and I guess that's why I'm here.
That's great. So one last question, or actually two last questions. First is, how has your business changed now that you're using so much data?
Not enough is probably the true answer. I think, yes, we became a lot better to analyze our data. We also became better, or we start to use machine learning, AI, to analyze what we really have, or what we can read out of the data that we have, but it's also a lot of acquiring the data. I'm not saying from other sources, but we have PDFs backdating. I mean, our company is 140 years old. We have PDFs and other sources backdating, I don't know how many hundreds of years, basically, and we first have to make the data usable. Right. So a lot of activity goes also now into acquiring the data, making it usable, then the analytics, then providing new services. So in my eyes, we are at the starting point of really utilizing the data we have. It's as I said, we operate in more than 100 countries. We have done an awful lot of acquisitions, likely like Oracle. With that, we have inherited an awful lot of complexity. So
the journey
really,
continues.
Really long journey to get your arms around the data and really utilize it to the full extent.
So that's great. Well, I really appreciate you being here. Before we leave, you mentioned to me you're a runner, right?
Yeah.
You're pretty fast.
Again, it's a benchmark question compared to others.
Okay, so you have some very valuable roadmaps on this IT transformation for CX. So I think you should challenge people to a 100-meter dash outside there. And if anyone can beat Christoph, he'll share with you his maps on how you can transform your business with CX. But no, he might share it with you anyway. But thank you very much for being here. That was great. And enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
And let's bring Juergen back up to the stage. Juergen.
Thank you for the athlete analogy. I'm trying to sprint out of here.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you. So I promised along the journey that we're going to talk about also the technology that all of the applications are built upon. Now, if you've been following the morning sessions, they went into very much detail as to what we're all doing from an infrastructure investment perspective. But why is that relevant for you as an application customers as well? Because like it or not, there's visible updates that we're doing to our software where you're getting new functions, new features delivered at a pace that we never could before. But then there's also invisible updates that you don't even realize. That, for example, if there is a security threat and our autonomous database detects it and patches it, automatically when we roll that out to every development pod that we have deployed in the cloud, every customer takes advantage of that. If there's a performance improvement in our infrastructure, if there's analytical advances, new emerging technologies that can be infused and brought to life through our application layer, all of those are invisible type of updates to you, and you're benefiting from our investments on the infrastructure side. One of the most talked about innovations, however, is artificial intelligence. And we want to be careful when we use the word artificial intelligence because it means a lot of things technically to a lot of people. But it's really about using machine learning is for us the #1 aspect of leveraging AI right now. And we want to make sure that it's very clear that, oops, that's advancing. Can we go back one slide? We want to make sure that customers understand that there's not a magic wand, some fairy pixie dust that you throw and all of a sudden you have a different business. It's really something where we are very keen and for our customers to understand that this is something that home-built solutions are going to be very tough to scale with. We see a lot of corporations saying, okay, we need now to hire data scientists, we need to have a platform ready, we need to bring it to life ourselves. I applaud you for those efforts, please continue to do so, but we think there are better ways where we as a software provider and a business partner and technology partner can give you productized type of head starts into that and keep updating your applications continuously as the applications get smarter, as we get feedback from customers and can fine-tune the algorithms. So I'm going to show you the path to AI, how we see it at Oracle in the next slide. But then there's always the myth as well that AI doesn't need people anymore. Far from being true. In fact, you need people to steer the business for the foreseeable future. You need him to fine-tune the algorithms, the predictions that we're shipping. So at this point in time, you're really saying AI or machine learning is an augmentation to an unfair level of productivity of your workforce to really make sure that they benefit and that the productivity of your enterprise rises to unprecedented levels. And then, of course, what I said earlier, it's about data. There's a lot of things that you need a lot of data to feed the algorithms, to feed machine learning. Here, it's really about making sure that you have the right data in the right context at the right point in time. So we have invested significantly. We rolled it up our sleeves. We hired data scientists. We put our data science muscle to work that hopefully you have as much of a head start getting into this game. So how do we approach it? Fundamentally, it's important that the entire breadth of our suite, all of the line of business context, can be used readily to power recommendations, to have a data foundation that can be used to become a smarter enterprise. But then it's this entire context of using our first-party data combined with the third-party data I was talking about earlier to really bring it to what we call smart data overall. And then making sure that those insights that you can generate out of the data pool are turned into insights as actionable as possible. But over time, once you develop trust into our recommendations, it's going to be turned into actionable recommendation, into automated type of recommendation. So it's really a stepwise type of thing where it's not overnight, you're an AI company. It's really something where we ship as much upfront intelligence, as much productized use cases to you based on our customer feedback, on our own ingenuity, but then it's upon you to train the systems and make sure that they learn from you. If we talk about AI, ML everywhere, that's quite a slide. We mean everywhere. We have a vast portfolio of line of business applications, and we certainly don't leave you alone in trying to figure out where AI needs to be applied. We want to make sure that whether it's on the customer experience side, making your sales reps more productive than ever before, whether it's on the supply chain sides to come up with route recommendations, whether it's in the HCM space where it's about finding the next best talent, for example. We productize, or in the ERP space, managing cash surplus positions, making sure that intelligent document recognition helps you with expense reports and everything. So there's so many use cases that we ourselves have thought of, but then it's our customer community, our partner community, that continuously guides our efforts as to where to invest next. So a lot of those features and functions that you're seeing there have already been shipped to customers or are in the process of being rolled out. So we have quite a roadmap here. We're very fond of our investments. The next question that typically comes up is, hey, Juergen, that sounds very science fiction-y like. And we're not ready. We don't think AI is real. It couldn't be further from the truth. If you see those statistics, those are measurements from our systems over the last 12 months. We have seen, for example, in terms of field service logistics, 624 million route recommendations have been delivered to customers. It's about making our marketing campaigns 2 times as effective in a conversion rate, in guiding our sales team members 4.4 million times to the next best sales action as to where they can have the highest likelihood to really score a deal. So all of those are real recommendations. Our customers are benefiting today from this intelligence investments, and we want to continuously continue to invest in that. Brings me to my analogy earlier. Digital conversations are just a thing. In our consumer life, we couldn't live without them. It's so comfortable to ask Siri a question. It's so comfortable at home to ask Alexa a question. Control your home devices through voice, for example. So this precise notion drove us into development of a digital assistant. So this digital assistant that we have been developing comes with multiple what we call skills. So those skills are line of business functionalities, use cases that you can use readily. But it's really that you can pick any form of interaction, being it SMS, being it Slack, being it Alexa, being it Google. You decide what is your interaction mechanism. But then we can have simple things like directory queries, for example, on an HR system. For example, who is my manager? That by itself isn't a question if you haven't that figured out. Not a good one. But then, for example, how does my team look like? What is the phone number? How can I get in contact with that? So what we found, however, is very interesting. We shipped, when we internally deployed our own digital assistant at Oracle, that we got error messages. We were saying, whoops, what's that? What we found is that this precise notion of having a contextual conversation with Alexa, Siri, and Google led employees to ask contextual questions and questions. meaning they didn't stop at giving me the phone number. They said basically, okay, is October 4th a holiday? How does it relate with my sales cycles? So we found that there is a need, an urgency to carry a conversation through. And that forced us to train a system with domain-specific vocabulary and also carry through a very complex train of thought. And from every conversation that has been captured, that has been recorded, from every message we got, we continuously fine-tuned the system. So in the line of business HCM, for example, any business transaction can be triggered through voice, for example. So it's very exciting for us. We're very invested in that, but we want to make sure that we also keep in mind the security aspect. So this is really an enterprise-grade digital assistance, and we invite you, obviously, to leverage that as well. Over the course of this conference, you might have experienced a very different Oracle from a look and feel perspective. This has to do that we have been hiring a lot of talent, designers that we thought are industry luminaries, to really help guide not only our user interface, our screens, our interaction paradigms, but also to fundamentally help us rethink how we need to be perceived as a business partner, how we can be better in contact with you, and how can we simplify the interactions. So it's a brand paradigm, it's a user experience paradigm, and I would love to roll a quick video as to how that manifests. So we packed a lot into that video punch. So you might be a little dizzy as to what you saw. So let me contextualize what you saw here. There were really several transactions that we saw here, from expense reporting, where we very fittingly took a London example. You might have recognized the map. We had the activation of an autonomous database exploration via SMS and chat, for example, and different pieces in there. What's fundamental about it is that it looks very different like in the software you're using today. That's by purpose. We really do think that the statical UI screens of the past need to go away. We have a very different expectations of user interacting with our software. And with that, we have really taken distinct design questions into account, where we definitely want to think about what is the user ultimately trying to accomplish? How can we make sure that once the goal is achieved, what's the emotional state? Now, that might sound very esoteric, but unless we can get into a delightful experience that the users want to work with our software, we're failing you. So it's really a fundamental paradigm shift where we go beyond transactional screen designs into catering to all of the needs of interactions, the experience you have in consumer design, and really bringing that to the enterprise level here. And with that, I want to talk a little bit as to how our customers are helping us along that journey. We told you several times, likely, over the course of this conference, that you're not alone in this cloud journey. We've talked to customers here, and I invite you actually to use this conference to talk to other customers who are on this journey already. But we have a very strong cloud-based community of 100,000, which is a combination out of customers, ecosystem partners, who to a certain extent keep us honest, but also challenged. So if we are willing to develop new features, for example, we can test drive within this community, or they give us feedback and we can do joint design collaboration. It also allows us to engage with you very differently through cloud. I was mentioning that those 90-day type of increments of bringing hundreds of new features for every line of business to you will really pull you away from the rest, actually. So we just don't think that the on-premise capabilities of innovation that we had in the past will be a vehicle that you can bank on for the future. We want to make sure that cloud is part of your journey as well here. And then, of course, those updates, they come with opt-in features. So it's not that you need to blindly trust us. You can also say, OK, this I want to wait maybe a little. I want to see how that plans out. So you're in control of that journey as well. We want to make sure that you have the best experience in getting with us through the cloud. When we talk about customers, it's very important to understand that you're not the first. For every line of business, across any company size, any geography, any industry, we have companies who have done the first step of their transformation and in many, many cases have already completed their digital transformation. So if it comes for finance, I mean, this is the who is who of the industry, Lloyds Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland. So, I mean, you have a lot of corporations in there from a financial services perspective, from your communications perspective, transportation, manufacturing. If we move on to human capital management and you pay close attention to the logos, oftentimes you'll feel that the same logos come up several times. This is not because we're shy of customers. This is to illustrate that companies pick a starting point and extend their cloud journey across multiple lines of businesses typically. So it's very important to understand that this is a holistic investment that customers are taking, and while they start with a partial journey, they typically go into a complete suite footprint over time. On the customer experience side, sales, service, marketing, we just saw a couple of customers on stage here that they're using the software, but anything from the most known brands and iconic brands such as Ferrari, HSBC, Veritas, all of those companies are using our services already in the cloud today and are reaping real business benefits. Which brings me to supply chain, a key investment of ours. So we have been, over the last years, investing vigorously into functionality that brings us to the forefront of cloud-driven supply chain management. And it is my distinct pleasure. As I told you, we have 4 stories. The last story to come now for the day is that Rick Jewell and Sean from Wolseley are going to share their experiences how they're leveraging supply chain in the cloud for a better business outcome. So let's play that video. Sean and Rick, welcome on stage.
All right, Sean. Well, here we are, and we're the supply chain guys, and they always put us last. So, but you know, if our systems have problems, you can't take customer orders, you can't ship product, you can't manufacture product. But they forget about that. But nowhere is that more true than was Wolseley. So maybe we could just start off. Tell me about yourself, tell me about your job and responsibilities, and then tell us a little bit about Wolseley, please.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So I'm Sean Mitchell. I head up strategy and architecture for Wolseley. Wolseley, so I'm responsible for the IT strategy and for our systems design. Wolseley UK are the UK's largest plumbing, heating and cooling trade specialist. We've got revenues of just over $200 million US. We've got 5,000 employees, 600 branches around the UK. We have 180,000 different products that we sell to over 100,000 customers every day.
Pretty extensive network that you have. The distribution industry has gone through some significant changes in the last 5 to 6 years. And I guess what impact have those changes had on Wolseley, and and how are you managing customer expectations, and maybe just a little bit about what those changes are, and then how you've reacted to that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about the industry in the first instance. So our customers tend to be split between large national and regional customers and local professional contractors. Both sets of customers need the product close to their point of work. The local professional contractor will typically work within 10 to 20 miles of his home base and will visit one of our stores several times a day. Sorry, beg your pardon, several times a week. We've got a differentiator in the market. We're successful because of the product knowledge that we have, the customer service that we bring, and the economies of scale. We bridge the gap between the diverse customers that we've got out there, the geographically dispersed customers, I should say, and the suppliers. And some of the changes that we've seen over the recent years, firstly, it's proliferation of channel, mainly driven by digital. Examples of that is we've seen digital models that were targeted initially towards end-user consumers being deployed in the wholesale market. Even if it's not with the same range of products or the same service wrapper that we might put on it, nonetheless, that's starting to disrupt. We see larger customers that are looking for improvements in the level of integration we have across the supply chain, so a much tighter level of integration between us and the customer. And then finally, digital is disrupting various aspects of the manufacturer, distributor, plumber, end customer value chain, meaning that each party within the chain is able to reach up or reach down the chain a little bit further than they were previously, which is creating opportunities, but it's also creating the risk of disintermediation if we're not able to be seen to add value, particularly to our customers. It might be worth mentioning perhaps a couple of other things that are affecting us. Price transparency, not surprisingly, our customers expect competitive pricing and expect consistent pricing. Increasingly, they can quickly make comparisons. And customer service, we're seeing increased demands in customer service. People want shorter lead times. They need better reliability around the promise dates, and they need a range of options in terms of how we deliver.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So all of these factors, are influencing the initiatives that we've taken on at Wolseley and the transformation programs that we've commenced.
Interesting. Well, as I mentioned, supply chain is absolutely key to Wolseley's success, and you really can't achieve your business objectives without rethinking your supply chain in light of all these changes. So, can you tell us a little bit about the importance of running a highly efficient supply chain in your business?
Sure. So the supply chain for us is a key differentiator. We've got 3 DCs that supply, together with third parties, supply 600 branches around the country. Our core products are available for next day delivery or collection across any of our 600 branches or to site for collection first thing in the morning the next day. So it's pivotal to our success. Any small changes, any small interruptions to that have a big impact on individual customers. The backbone of our supply chain, I should say our supply chain overall has got a number of systems supporting it, but the backbone is a legacy system, a bespoke legacy system, which has been constraining us from making some of the changes that we feel are necessary.
So you're talking about your bespoke system, kind of put you into a box to a certain degree. So Wolseley and you began to think about, you needed something new, and you needed to think about a new platform and how to enable future growth. So how did you really get started with the Oracle Cloud?
Okay. Yeah, so there were 2 key aspects of the Oracle solution that allowed us to progress these initiatives. Firstly, it's a modular solution. So it helped us to implement the services that we could see value in whilst integrating into our existing systems. Allowed us to define projects with the correct balance of ambition and risk that we were capable and confident that we could deliver against. So really important for us. Secondly, whilst there was a good functional match to the processes and requirements that we had at the start, we were also very conscious that we were buying into a roadmap. We need to remain agile, and we want to be in a position where we can take advantage of the new technologies and the new ways of working as they emerge, and maintain that ability. Furthermore, is to maintain that ability to integrate into our existing systems and expand the footprint beyond Oracle so we can extend the solution.
Okay. And so, reimagining your supply chain is not an easy undertaking. And you mentioned the modularity of our products, which is very purposeful as to how we built all of our applications, but certainly in the supply chain. Maybe if you could just take the audience through, which of our products you've implemented at this point in time.
Yeah. Okay. So let me explain how we've gone about that. So we've taken a very stepwise approach to our project. We started with a fairly modest technical program. And then we've expanded that out. So we've executed 5 projects in succession. We've got ourselves to a point now where we're live with planning, order management, inventory, purchasing, distribution, orders, order orchestration, global order promising. So that for us, it's 40 to 60,000 shipment lines a day. It's £3 million of purchase orders every day. And all of those changes to the system, together with the business change that's taken place, have contributed to significant improvements in our supply chain efficiency and to the service availability and service levels that we're able to offer to the organisation. So significant undertaking. I would reflect at this point, though, as well as the modules that we've deployed, it's the colleagues of mine that have been responsible for the business change that have probably had the most challenging task. One of the things that I think is important to note is that as the market moves towards cloud, the constraints that technology development puts on the timescales, I think, is reducing, and it does allow more time to be able to focus on what are actually the most challenging aspects of the projects, which is the business change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you have very high volumes and very quick throughput, requiring very rapid turnaround, and I know we have partnered together quite a bit to make that happen, and you've been a wonderful partner to us in Oracle development. So thinking, I guess, towards the future now, beyond what we've done, what else can we do to help you, and how can we make things easier for Wolseley as you continue on your journey?
Okay, a solid roadmap. So I mentioned before we're buying into a roadmap. It's important for us to be able to have input into that roadmap. And so far so good. We've already got items that are of interest to us. For example, the channel revenue that's coming down the line, and then in very recent releases, the back order management will be immediately of value to us. So that's important. Maintaining that modular approach is also important. Look, and I think probably most importantly, being frank, when we selected Oracle, we did have concerns about whether you could be a service-focused organisation. But Oracle, they're clearly committed to our project outcomes, and you have made good on your promises to work closely with us throughout the project. During our recent cutover, you mentioned the criticality of the systems for us. Small technical problems have big operational impacts. During the recent cutover that we had, the support was excellent, really good. So it's that continuing tight working relationship and the continued improvements in service and operations which we really value.
Very good. Well, thank you for being a great partner to us, and we look forward to working with you long term.
Sure.
Thank you, Sean.
Great. Thanks very much. Cheers.
And back over to Juergen again to finish things off.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. I heard your comment about supply chain always being last. There's something to be said about saving the best for last.
Ah, there you go. Thank you.
So allow me to wrap up the session. I promised you we're also going to make a case why the time is now. I also told you earlier that we pulled out all of the stops, that if you're still sitting on the sidelines potentially of a consideration to complement your journey with cloud products, is something that if you are invested in our on-premise solutions, such as eBusiness Suite, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, we have developed solutions which we call Soar to the Cloud. It's a fixed price, fixed scope, fixed time frame type of recommendation that we extend to you, that this journey really becomes as predictable as possible and as easy as possible. So we have teamed up with our own Oracle consulting services, but we've also extended this knowledge to our partner community to really help you get started on this transition. Which brings me to my last point. Please do leverage this conference to explore the opportunities you have with Oracle Cloud, with our product lines in general. Explore the opportunities to talk to customers. We have a lot of customers like yourselves here at the conference, so please do connect. And to make it easier, maybe just take a snap of this particular slide. This highlights all of the sessions that we feel coming out of this particular session you should consider for your agenda. These are typically the domain expert type of session around customer experience, around ERP, around human capital management and supply chain sessions. The last call I want to make here is really that please do pay a visit to our Oracle at Oracle campus. It's been a significant investment for ourselves. We've been on this cloud journey, like you have been, since 2014. It was a humbling experience as well for us. We didn't do it in one bite, but we have all of the internal change agents here at the conference. You can talk to them. They will give you candid advice, what we learned along the journey. We did that for the very first time at Oracle OpenWorld San Francisco. We had thousands of customers streaming through this type of campus, asking questions, engaging our own internal staff as to what we experienced, and we're very openly sharing those statistics as well. With that, once again, my heartfelt thank you to our customers, our prospects, our partners, our media, our analyst community for working with us, keeping us honest, keeping us challenged, and we want to be this business and technology partner for you in your journey to the cloud. So thank you so much.